did it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying to you.
2% of it. But I want to do something you actually follow through on, right? Galvanizing statements, it's all bullshit. It's not good enough.
So my message to any Democratic elected officials, candidates, operatives, influencers, get into these spaces. Make the case. We're right on the merits, on the issues. We're right on climate change and healthcare and abortion and unions and income inequality and housing. We just have to make sure that people know it.
In this video, progressive host Brian Tyler Cohen plays a clip of Andrew Schulz interviewing Pete Buttigieg. Brian Tyler Cohen says that it was a good thing for Buttigieg to go on Andrew Schulz's show because the Democrats are viewed so unfavorably. With that, let's watch Andrew Schulz force Brian Tyler Cohen to admit that no one cares what the Democrats have to say.
Would be solving, which is a real problem, is that in the federal government, it is too hard to reward your top performers. So you could be somebody who could be commanding a multi-million-dollar salary in the private sector, working on something wildly important, but there's just no way that you're getting, you're in your particular pay grade, same as everybody else. And to remove your bottom performance. Like a lot of people who've been in and out of business and government will tell me, like when I was in the private sector and the public sector, actually, like the top 10% were pretty much the same, these amazing driven people. The government ones weren't compensated as well, but they were purpose driven. But the bottom 10% was completely different because I couldn't do anything about the bottom 10%. Right? So imagine if Doge had come in and they had gone through every department and said, okay, we're going to create a way to reward the top performers. And we're also going to analyze whose job description is no longer needed, or their job performance is not there. And even though it's painful, even though maybe it's politically tough, like we're going to show them the door. That would be one thing. But they just sent an email to everybody, many of whom were in fact top performers. Like some of the people they fired who got caught up in this thing, the people got fired just based on whether you were in a category. And then next thing you know, like you wake up one day and this office, department, whatever Doge is, clearly hasn't like gone through and checked like who's doing a good job or who's, there's no way because there wasn't even time to do that. And they're just like, guess what, you're fired. There has to be some like logic to it or order to it if you want to shape the behavior of other countries, right? And what we're seeing instead is this like really like chaotic, like grab ass policy where like he changes his mind every couple of days on things, right? And that makes it that much harder, especially if you're a small business or if you're a giant corporation. You have all kinds of hedges and like ways you can maneuver through this.
Or they'll just remove the tariffs. That was another thing that really frustrated me. If you're going to put the tariffs on, put them on everything.
Seems to me like, hold it.
Now they're like picking and choosing what they're going to apply.
So now Apple doesn't have the tariffs. And it's just like, but to me that frustrated because Apple is the one that should be paying more than anybody. They're the one that parks their money overseas. They're the one that's skirting the taxes. The mom and pop businesses that are fucked by the tariffs are still going to have to pay. So now you're disproportionately punishing the people that are actually doing the right thing for the country in the first place.
Right now in Kokomo, Indiana, I just read a story today about 370 workers at Stellantis who just got laid off. Auto workers who got laid off because of the tariffs. So this is a tool that you can use for sure.
Here we go again with the Democrats giving us sob stories about anything that Donald Trump does. Donald Trump should remove all the tariffs and not have any trade negotiations because some people got fired. I'm not insensitive to that. There are people that are getting caught up as casualties, unfortunately, in these necessary things that the Trump administration has to do. Donald Trump's trade policy is working. All the other countries are coming to us willing to negotiate and seem pretty understanding as to our position as to how unfair we have it as far as international trade goes. China is getting squeezed like crazy. They are quietly taking tariffs off over 100 product categories, but Xi can't show his people that he's weak, so it's being done quietly. Shipping containers are piling up. Business owners that make the little crappy things have inventory out the wazoo, and I've seen the interviews. They can't get rid of the product they have. They can't even give it away. That's a quote from a business owner in China. These things are working, and it's awful that people lose their jobs during it, but they're an unfortunate consequence of multiple administrations doing nothing about the ridiculous trade imbalance that the United States has with the rest of the world. And the same goes for Doge. There are, I'm sure, really good people that lost their jobs because of Doge. But again, because no one did anything about it, the government was bloated out of control, and you had to take a sledgehammer to it. Because if the Democrats get back in power, they're not going to do anything. The government will just continue to grow, and they'll continue to spend. So I have empathy for anyone that's been affected by any of Trump's policies. but they are all in the best interest of the long-term prosperity of the country. Let's get back to the video.
But it's absolutely critically important that you know what you're doing when you do. And if you're just making shit up as you go along, or if you're doing it for a reason that's actually less about helping middle America and more about consolidating power, which is what I think is actually happening.
That was Pete Buttigieg on the Flagrant podcast with Andrew Schulz, who is a well-known right-wing influencer. Now, so as not to bury the lead here, I have seen a bit of the pushback, people saying, no thanks, this guy helped Trump win, how can you platform somebody like this? I cannot be more unequivocal in saying that Pete going into these spaces is what we need to be doing. We lost the last election. We lost the Electoral College and the popular vote. Our only job right now is to expand the tent. We don't have the luxury of imposing purity tests and saying, don't platform this guy or that guy, they voted for Trump. Maybe during the Obama era when we had huge majorities, but we don't have huge majorities. We don't have any majorities. And so our job right now is to bring people back into our tent. We do that solely by making the case where people are. And by the way, Pete talking to Andrew Schulz is not an endorsement of Andrew Schulz. Pete talking to him means that he is talking to his audience of millions of people. There is no world in which that is a bad thing. Even Pete going on and appealing to a handful of people means that we've got a handful of people who wouldn't have otherwise heard our message. And that's worst case scenario. Best case, Pete wins thousands or tens of thousands of people, or Andrew Schulz himself, who speaks to millions of people, gets bought in on what Pete is saying. The work of persuasion is hard, but Pete is the best of the best, and so this is the work that needs to be done. The reality is that if Democrats cede these spaces to the right, we allow them carte blanche to define us. It's no wonder that some of these right-wing audiences think that Democrats are communist, Marxist, radicals. Oftentimes, there aren't any Democrats there to push back. I would rather be in a hostile environment to define myself than cede that hostile environment and allow my opponents to define me instead. But again, and I really want to stress this, that requires an understanding from Democrats, from all of us, that we will have to sit down with people who we might view as problematic, and that's okay. We need to be in these spaces. Do not punish people like Pete for doing the hard work of persuasion just because you don't like the person he's talking to. This isn't about you or me or us. This isn't about satisfying our qualifications or conditions. This is about reaching other people where they are. It's about bringing other people into the tent. Our job is to applaud this when it happens because this is the only way we get these people back. Consider, too, the Andrew Schulz
If you like watching videos like this one, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
of the world are not Republican operatives nor hardened conservatives. These are likely people who might have supported Obama in 2008 and 2012. We can get these people back, but not if we're not willing to talk to them. Not if we're not willing to go into these spaces. Not if we opt to impose purity test and cast aside anyone who doesn't agree with us on every single point. And to that point, look, I think it's important to differentiate the bad actors who spread disinformation on purpose from the victims of that disinformation. Do the Alex Joneses and Ben Shapiros and Tucker Carlsons and Charlie Kirks know better? Absolutely. But there's a new generation of podcast hosts, the podcast bros, of which I would probably include Andrew Schulz, who have a lot more exposure to the right wing than the left, which means their opinions are colored a lot more by Republicans than Democrats, which is why it is so important to have someone like Pete go in there and dispel the right wing branding that's taken hold, like this, for example.
If you look at the actual conservative governing plan, though, not the talk, not the campaigning, not the posturing, what they actually do.
Okay.
I would say the biggest social policy commitment that they've made that they actually care about to the point that they actually went through and kept it was to get rid of the right to choose. It's number one project, the Republican Party on the social side.
Yeah.
But you're doing a great job for yourself there, Pete. First of all, the Supreme Court, not the Republicans, sent the abortion issue back to the states where it's always belonged. You know that somewhere in your heart. But if you want to consider an abortion ban, in your eyes, it's absolutely not. I have no problem with that because now that some states are stricter with their laws about murdering babies, think how many babies won't be killed now that the mean old Republicans, in your eyes, took away a quote-unquote woman's right to choose. Democrats do need to keep talking to people in the middle and on the right because hearing them plant their flag in baby murder, it just exposes them for who they really are. And makes people like them even less. It's so crazy. Like every cliche about the Democrats has made an appearance in this video. Like calling Andrew Schulz a right-wing influencer. He's just a comedian and he has good conversations with both sides of the aisle. He's just a normal person. He just thinks like a normal person, which to the left wing these days is a right-wing influencer. The guy's so middle of the road. And I've never said this in my life, but Brian Tyler Cohen's message about Democrats going on shows of people whose opinions differ from theirs is a very good thing to do. I mean, anyone who's just a normal, sane human being knows that's the best way to get things done is to talk to the other side. Unfortunately for Brian Tyler Cohen, he's talking to a brick wall. None of his viewers want lefties going on any show that doesn't agree with them 100%, or if the show is to the right of communism by a millimeter, they call that a right-wing show. So his viewers and the Democrats aren't going to go for this kind of stuff. And I honestly think the other thing is anytime a Democrat goes on these shows, they just make fools of themselves because, as always, their arguments are based in emotion. And most of the time, conservatives' arguments are based on logic. So when you have debates and those the way the two sides think, the emotional side is always going to look like a lunatic. So I agree with Brian Tyler Cohen. More Democrats should go on these shows just because it's good to talk to the other side. But I also want them to because they make themselves look so stupid every time they open their mouth. But like I said, don't expect to see a lot of it because their party doesn't like mingling with anyone that doesn't agree with them 100%. And any left-winger with more than one brain cell knows not to go on a right-wing show because they'll get cooked if they have any kind of debate. Anyway, let's wrap it up.
It's one of the few promises they actually kept.
Yeah, it's valid, yeah.
And then economically, the biggest promise they've actually kept is tax cuts for the rich. Biggest thing that he did in his first term. And right now it's up for debate right now. Literally Congress it's not getting as much attention because all the other crazy things going on. But it's more tax cuts for the rich and for corporations, right? So to me, like most of the stuff he said he was going to do, he didn't actually do. He didn't do the big infrastructure bill he talked about. We actually did it. He didn't even build the wall. That's the thing. Build the wall was like a galvanizing statement. It's not like he actually did it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying to you.
2% of it. But I want to do something we actually follow through on, right? Galvanizing statements, it's all bullshit. It's not good enough.
So my message to any Democratic elected officials, candidates, operatives, influencers, get into these spaces. Make the case. We're right on the merits, on the issues. We're right on climate change and healthcare and abortion and unions and income inequality and housing. We just have to make sure that people know it. And my message for the broader electorate, give those folks space and grace to go into those uncomfortable spaces and do the hard work of persuasion.
Did you hear Brian Tyler Cohen just say, we're right on all these issues? Every single thing he listed, they're on the complete wrong side of. This whole tax cut for the rich thing is hilarious because it continues to try to paint Trump as only caring about billionaires and the wealthy. Billionaires and the wealthy are the ones who are mad at him right now because of the tariffs. It's Wall Street that is mad at him and, in fact, trying to hinder him enacting his trade strategy because they can't take the short-term pain. And Trump is seriously considering, if it works, no income tax for Americans making less than $200,000 a year. Is that all about the rich, or is that a populist president? You tell me. But we want to hear from you. What did you guys think about Brian Tyler Cohen's statements about Democrats going on more right-wing shows? Do you think they should? Do you think they shouldn't? You think they'll be successful on the shows? Do you think they'll look stupid? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, as always, really appreciate you watching, and we will see you on the next one.